This story is from when I was a senior in high school. Back then, I was kind of a rebellious teenager, but only when it came to my family. I wasn't a bad kid or anything, just difficult with them. I had a loving family, but I was that girl who thought she was too cool to spend time with them. They always expected me to keep my little brother Jake entertained. He was only 10 at the time, and I was 8 years older than him. With that age gap, we might as well have been from completely different worlds. Whenever we went on trips, my family usually picked places near the ocean. We lived about 5 hours from the coast, so it was an easy drive. That year, they decided on Maine. And don't get me wrong, it was beautiful. As an adult, I'd actually love to go back. But at 18, I thought it was the worst possible place we could have gone. Before I go any further, I'll admit it, I know I was kind of awful back then. Even now, thinking about it makes me cringe. I really was just a brat. When we got to the house, it was incredible. It looked like something straight out of a Stephen King novels, which honestly made sense considering we were in Maine. It was this massive white house with green shutters, tucked deep into the trees. My dad even joked, "This is how most horror movies start, isn't it?" Probably not the best thing to say in front of a 10-year-old. But Jake didn't care. He was just as amazed as I was. Inside, the house felt like a maze. The back center opened up into this huge living room with a perfect view of the forest behind it. The rest of the place was full of these strange hallways that intersected in ways that didn't make sense. It felt like a house someone designed in The Sims, not something you'd ever expect in real life. But the strangest part wasn't the layout. It was that the house connected to a smaller adjoining house where the owner lived. His name was Hugh, and he was weird. He was tall, always wearing this old sweat-stained bucket hat. His teeth were yellow, but that wasn't even the thing that stood out. It was his personality. He was loud, goofy, almost overly friendly, a little eccentric. He welcomed us warmly, kept talking about how kind people from Maine were. My parents just nodded politely. He told us he'd be right next door if we needed anything, but otherwise we wouldn't see or hear from him all week, which, honestly, I was fine with. None of us loved the idea of sharing a house with a stranger, but it was too late to change anything, so my family decided to make the best of it. Well, they did. I spent most of the time complaining and trying to convince them to leave early. The first morning while we were eating breakfast, my parents said we were going on a hike. I immediately said I wasn't going. After some arguing, they gave in and decided to go without me. The real reason I stayed? Right before the trip, I had just started dating this girl, Danny, and I wanted to talk to her. I knew I wouldn't get service on the hike. So, yeah, I ditched my family to text my girlfriend. I was showing her pictures of the house, especially the weird layout. When I told her about the adjoining house, she didn't believe me, so I decided to prove it. At the end of one hallway was a door. I recorded a video telling her that behind it was Hugh's house. She still didn't buy it, so I tried opening it. I expected it to be locked. It wasn't. And the worst part, that door was right next to my bedroom, meaning this guy had an unlocked door right next to where I'd be sleeping. That didn't sit right with me at all. Still, I stepped inside while on FaceTime with Danny. It looked normal, just a small living space, a couch, a TV, nothing strange. Then I heard a door shut somewhere deeper inside. I froze, then panicked and ran back to our side. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. It was Hugh. Still smiling, still cheerful. He asked why I was recording videos in his house. I tried to lie, said I got lost, but he didn't believe me. He wasn't angry, though, just oddly amused. He told me he had cameras in his house, said he got an alert when the door opened and saw me walking around with my phone. So I just told him the truth. He laughed, then made this weird comment about how nobody in Maine locks their doors. I laughed awkwardly and ended the conversation as fast as I could. The second he left, I locked that door. I didn't care what people in Maine did. Where I'm from, you lock your doors and you check them twice. Danny told me she didn't trust him, said I should protect myself, just in case. So I dragged a heavy wooden chair and wedged it against the door, like a makeshift barricade. When my family got back, I told them everything. They weren't happy, but not for the reason I expected. They were mad I went into his house. They weren't wrong, but I still snapped at them. Not long after, they said we were going out for dinner. I refused again. At that point, they were too tired to argue. They just said they'd bring me food back. After they left, the sun set, and it got dark. Not normal dark, pitch black, no light at all. A couple of hours later, I was sitting on the couch texting Danny when I heard a loud crash. I jumped up immediately. It came from the end of the hallway, the same hallway where that door was. My stomach dropped. The chair. That had to be the chair. My first thought, Hugh was trying to get in. I moved slowly towards the hallway. It was too dark to see anything. I flipped the light on. The chair was knocked over, and next to it was a backpack. Not mine. I didn't think. I ran straight to the screened-in porch, locked the inside door, and made sure the outer screen door was shut tight. It wasn't much protection, but it was something. I curled up under a patio table, shaking, trying to figure out what to do. And of course, my phone was still inside. Then I heard footsteps, slow, normal, walking through the house. I don't know how long I stayed there, minutes, maybe longer, but eventually I saw headlights pulling in. My dad's van. I ran outside, yelling for them to stay in the car. I was barely making sense. My parents were confused. Then Hugh appeared, and I swear I almost collapsed. He asked my dad to speak privately. I tried to stop him, but he brushed me off. Something was wrong. Hugh wasn't smiling anymore. He looked terrified. My dad came back, told us to get in the van immediately, said we needed to leave. We drove about a mile away to a grocery store parking lot. Minutes later, police cars sped past us. That's when my dad told us everything. Hugh heard the crash too. His camera picked up movement, probably from the chair hitting the door. He thought it was me again, but when he checked, he saw nothing. Still, something felt off, so he checked another camera, the one facing our hallway. At first, it was too dark, until I turned on the light. He saw the chair, the backpack. Then, a tall, bald man walked out of my bedroom. Not my dad, not me, someone else. The man grabbed the backpack and went back in. Hugh ran over immediately, but saw me locking myself on the porch. He didn't try to come in. He didn't want to risk alerting whoever was inside. So he stayed outside, watching, waiting, until my family got back. That's when he told my dad everything. We stayed in that parking lot until Hugh called. The police had chased the man into the woods. They didn't catch him. We never went back that night. Hugh packed our things and brought them to us. We stayed in a hotel and left the next morning. I think about it sometimes. If I hadn't stayed behind, if I hadn't acted the way I did, things could have been so much worse. They never caught him. Even with all those cameras, they still don't know how he got in, or what he wanted. I used to tell myself he was just some homeless guy looking for shelter. It helped me sleep. But deep down, I don't think that's true. Because sometimes the scariest things aren't the ones you see. Sometimes they're the ones already inside, waiting.
Every year, my family goes on this big vacation together. We stay at my aunt and uncle's house right on the ocean in West Palm Beach. Their son, Will, is the same age as me, and we've always been close. It's not just my immediate family either. Another aunt and uncle come along too, with their kids. Their daughter, Teresa, is my best friend. We went through all of high school together, and since we're the same age, share the same last name, and kind of look alike, people always assumed we were twins. We leaned into it. On these trips, we'd tell strangers we were twins just for fun. As we got older, those vacations changed a little. Teresa, Will, and I would still spend the days with the family at the beach, but at night, things were different. Will would take us out to bars and clubs. Being the local, he knew all the best spots. And on one of those trips, a few years back, something happened. Something I still think about. Something I can't explain. Teresa and Will don't seem as shaken about it as I am. They think it was just a weird coincidence, maybe even a prank. But I don't believe that. That trip started like any other. We were having fun, going out every night. And like usual, Will got a little too much. Honestly, it wasn't really accidental. He just liked drinking. Because of that, Teresa and I always knew when he hit his limit, and once he did, we'd call it a night and get him home. I was usually the responsible one. I'd drink, but not enough to lose control. I always made sure Teresa and especially Will got back safely. On this particular night, Will got out of hand in one of the bars. He kept going on about how he was a local, like that gave him the right to say whatever he wanted. It didn't, and people were getting annoyed. Eventually, the bouncer had enough. He physically threw him out. He was a little dazed, mumbling, but otherwise okay. No injuries, just a bruised ego. I told Teresa to stay with him while I found us a ride home. He kept calling me a buzzkill. That's how I knew it was time to leave. I managed to get us a ride that would be there soon. While we waited, I called my boyfriend and told him about the night. He laughed and told me to call him when I got back. Right after I hung up, Teresa ran over to me panicking. She said she looked down at her phone for a second and Will was gone. Just wandered off. In his condition. I called him immediately, straight to voicemail. Not surprising. We started running up and down the street, yelling his name. Then Teresa shouted that she saw him. It was Will. He was walking in this uneven, crooked line, heading straight towards this dark, wooded area. I don't even know what to call it. A forest? A swamp? It was Florida, so I'm calling it a swamp. Thick trees, mud everywhere, no clear path. Teresa caught up to him just before he disappeared into it and started yelling at him. He was laughing, acting like a child. The second she let go of him, he sprinted straight into the swamp. Without thinking, we ran after him. Adrenaline, panic, something just took over. It didn't take long to catch up. He wasn't moving fast. Using our phone flashlights, we could see how disgusting the ground was. Mud up to our ankles. Thick brush everywhere. We were just about to turn back when Will suddenly told us to be quiet. We both stared at him, ready to snap, but this time he sounded serious. He crouched down, and that's when we heard it. Screaming. Not normal screaming. Not anything I'd ever heard before. It didn't sound like someone yelling. It sounded like someone in real danger. The sound echoed through the swamp, bouncing off everything. We couldn't tell where it was coming from. We didn't move. None of us said a word. We just stayed there, frozen, listening. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Complete silence. We stayed there for at least another 15 minutes. Then we ran, as fast as we could, back through the mud, out to the street. We got a ride home. None of us said much. We sobered up fast. We tried to explain what we heard, to make it make sense, but nothing we came up with felt right. The next morning, Teresa had an idea. She wanted to go back. She said in daylight we could figure out what we heard, see if there was anything there. I didn't want to go, but somehow I did. Teresa led the way. She has a weirdly good sense of direction, and somehow she got us back to the exact spot we'd been hiding the night before. Our footprints were still there in the dirt. We talked about the direction we thought the screams came from. Surprisingly, we all pointed the same way. So we followed it. There wasn't a path. We were just pushing through brush and mud. A few minutes later, Teresa suddenly stopped. She gasped. There was something hanging from a tree branch. A denim jacket sleeve. Just the sleeve. On the ground below it, footprints. A lot of them. All overlapping, like there had been a struggle. I wanted to leave right then, but Teresa kept going. A little further ahead, we found the rest of the jacket. Torn. Lying in a small clearing. More footprints around it, clustered together in one spot, like something had happened there. Then, leading away from it, one single set of footprints, going straight into thicker brush, and then disappearing. That was it for me. I told them I was done. I didn't feel safe. I wanted to go back. They weren't as shaken as I was, but they were uneasy. We went back to the house. And somehow they convinced me to let it go. I didn't understand how. To me, it felt obvious we had stumbled onto something bad, but they kept saying it could have been nothing, a prank, a coincidence. Will even said that if we went to the police, it could backfire on us, that we'd be the only ones connected to whatever happened, that no one would believe we just randomly ended up in the swamp. That part scared me, even though we had nothing to hide. Looking back, I hate that I listened. I should have called the police that night, but I didn't. And now it's been years, and I still think about those screams. I still wonder what we heard. Was it a crime or something else? I don't know, but I do know this. I hope I never hear a sound like that again, because once you hear something like that, you don't forget it.
This story happened to me and my girlfriend last summer. It was the first time we were able to travel together as a couple, and we were really excited about it. She had come with me once on a family vacation before, but that's not the same as being alone together. This felt different. It felt important, and it was memorable, just not for the reasons we expected. For privacy reasons, I'm going to call my girlfriend Vanessa. One thing you should know about her, she always tells me I'm way too nice to people. She says there's a difference between being polite and my version of nice, which, according to her, is treating every stranger like they're already my best friend. Those are her words, not mine. I've always thought of it as a good thing, but this is the one time it almost cost me. The story starts on our way down to Ocean City. It's a popular tourist town, basically just miles of condos, hotels, restaurants, all right along the beach. I used to go there with my family when I was younger, but this was my first time going back as an adult. About 20 minutes before we reached the condo, I pulled into a gas station to fill up and grab a couple drinks. That's where I met him, a guy who introduced himself as Henry. He accidentally bumped into me and immediately started apologizing over and over. I laughed it off, told him it was fine, probably my fault anyway. He seemed normal, good-looking, late 20s maybe. He had kind eyes, steady eye contact, and this easygoing way of talking. We ended up chatting while we waited in line. I told him we were heading to Ocean City, and his whole face lit up. He said he and his girlfriend were going there too. I got excited. I told him the name of the condo we were staying in, and he smiled and said he was pretty sure they were staying right near us. At the time, it felt like one of those random, fun vacation moments, the kind where you meet new people and maybe make a temporary vacation friend. He asked to exchange numbers. I didn't hesitate. I told him we could meet up at the beach sometime, maybe grab a drink. We did one of those quick hugs and went our separate ways. When I got back in the car, Vanessa immediately knew I had made a new friend. She didn't even need to ask. I told her what happened. She just rolled her eyes. We got to the condo later that afternoon and spent a quiet evening there. Our room was on the 5th floor, overlooking the ocean. We sat out on the balcony for a while before going to bed. The next morning, we went down to the beach early. We're both early risers, so it wasn't a big deal. We set up our chairs a little after 7 and just sat there with our coffee. A few hours later, I heard someone call my name. I turned around. It was Henry. He was waving at us, walking toward us with a woman behind him. And immediately, something felt off. She didn't match his energy at all. He was friendly, expressive, almost mirroring my personality. She looked miserable. Her face was mostly hidden behind oversized sunglasses, and the rest was covered by a wide sun hat. She was wearing leggings and a long-sleeved button-up shirt, and she carried this large tote bag that looked completely empty. She looked like someone who hated the sun. Henry introduced her as his girlfriend, Sarah. She barely acknowledged us, just a small wave and a forced smile. After a slightly awkward introduction, Henry asked if they could join us. Of course, I said yes. That's just how I am. They didn't bring any beach gear. No chairs, no towels. Henry just dropped down into the sand, and Sarah stood there awkwardly. I offered her my chair. She hesitated, then took it. While we sat there, Henry mentioned they were staying in the building right next to ours. The odds of that felt insane to me. To Vanessa, it was a red flag. We stayed there for about an hour before heading back to the room. Before we left, Henry kept asking if we wanted to go out for drinks that night. I could tell Vanessa didn't want to, so I told him I'd text him if we decided to go. Back in the room, Vanessa didn't hold back. She said Henry felt fake, that something about him wasn't right. And Sarah, she said she was one of the rudest people she'd ever met. She also pointed something out that stuck with me. Who comes to a beach town, hates the beach, and still goes down there without bringing anything? No towel, no chair, nothing. It didn't make sense. I told her she was right, and I promised I wouldn't call him.
That night, I was out on the balcony smoking a cigar, even though it wasn't allowed. It was late. I'm not sure how late. I looked down towards the beach, and I swear I saw Sarah, walking alone, same outfit, same bag, same hat. I couldn't be completely sure. It was far, but it really looked like her. I brushed it off and went back inside. Vanessa was already asleep. I went to check that the door was locked, and that's when I heard it. Voices, right outside the door. At first, I thought it was just someone in the hallway. There were other rooms on the floor. But this sounded close, like directly outside. I stepped closer to the door, and right before I reached for the handle, it moved, like someone was trying to open it from the outside. Instead of panicking, I just called out calmly that they had the wrong room. Immediately, footsteps, running away. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to process it. Then I told myself it was nothing. Someone probably just got the wrong door. It happens. I stayed up a little longer just in case. Nothing else happened. Eventually, I went to bed. The next day, they showed up again. Same as before, out of nowhere. Henry and Sarah walked right up to us on the beach, wearing the exact same clothes. That's when it really started to feel wrong. Not swimsuits, not beachwear, the same full outfits as the day before. We didn't stay long that time. I could tell Vanessa had had enough. I told Henry we were heading back and that we had dinner plans. I said I'd text him later if we felt like going out. He seemed overly excited about that, which made me uncomfortable. Back at the condo, while we were getting ready, I looked down from the balcony again. I saw Sarah, standing near the edge of the building where the beach meets the patio, facing the ocean, alone. Not near the building she claimed they were staying in, just there, watching. A few moments later, Henry came out from what looked like the bottom of our building. He walked up to her, started gesturing aggressively like they were arguing, then he stormed off in the opposite direction. Sarah waited a few seconds, then followed him. It felt strange, but I tried not to overthink it. We went out to dinner. While we were eating, my phone kept ringing. Henry, over and over. I ignored it. On the walk back, he called again. Vanessa told me to just text him that we're going to bed, so I did. I told him we were heading back and calling it a night. Immediately, he called again. I ignored it. Then he sent a message. "Hey, let's grab a drink before you get back. It's too early to go to bed." I was getting annoyed now. I replied again, firm this time, said no, we were already almost back. Then he sent one last message, and it made my stomach drop. "Don't go to your room yet." We both stopped walking, right there in the parking lot. We just stared at the message. Something felt very wrong, but we went up anyway. When we reached the door, it was slightly open. I knew I had locked it. Vanessa stayed in the hallway. I stepped inside. At first, everything looked normal. Then I noticed the balcony door was open. No one was out there. I walked into the bedroom, and that's when I saw it. Our suitcases, completely torn apart. Everything everywhere. They hadn't taken much, just a pair of my shoes, Vanessa's bathing suit, and a picture of us we had left on the dresser. We called the police. We told them about Henry and Sarah, but those names, probably fake. The building next door had no record of anyone named Henry, and the only Sarah registered there wasn't her. When they tried to track the number, it was gone, out of service. The police told us that sometimes people target tourists, gain their trust, wait for the right moment, then rob them. We were just unlucky, but it didn't feel random, not to me. It felt planned. And the worst part, they're still out there, somewhere, waiting for the next person who's a little too trusting, a little too friendly, just like I was.